All right, welcome back to D3 Glory Days. Here now with Mike Burnstein, co-founder of Janji, and more importantly, the runner-up in the Rose Holman Twilight Meet on April 15th, 2011, 2 seconds ahead of my co-host Noah Droddy. Mike, welcome to D3 Glory Days.
Fantastic. Love that. Thanks for having me.
All right,
What?
Stu, that was good. That was good. I give you
Thank you. I
credit for
told
that.
you it was going to be good. Starting on April 15th, 2011, what do you remember about beating Noah that night? It was Twilight Meet in Rose Holman, Noah's first breakthrough 5K, and you took him down. Do you remember anything from that race?
It's funny. I watched your career, Noah, saw how how well you've done, and it's been really awesome to see a D3 guy kind of burst onto the scene. And I did at one point go back and research results to see if I ever beat you, and I kind of figured it would have had to have been in a 10K. So I only looked at the 10Ks because I kind of sucked at the 5K, and I didn't even see that one. So it's a pleasant surprise. I don't remember it because I think I blocked out any past memories of 5Ks, especially at meets like that one that were like, was that kind of like a last chance style? Those were always kind of tough. End of the season, maybe.
That was kind of mid-season, but really what you're saying here is that you sucked at the 5K, but not as much as I did.
Yeah, exactly. We just needed to thrive in the longer distances after college.
So you don't remember that night at all, but I remember it like extremely vividly. Like that's like one of the highlights of my of my entire running career. We actually have a video of the entire race.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah, it's on an old laptop. I'd have to dig it up, but no, I'm glad it's a happy memory for me and just something you've been able to move on from.
And the winner was Dave, my co-founder.
Which is awesome. To like full circle here now. The two co-founders.
Probably another reason I blacked it out, but yeah, happy for Dave. That's great.
Well, I'm glad we can all reminisce. I don't think I was in that race at all, but
you weren't. No.
Yeah, glad that I can have at least someone to rely on to beat Noah.
I think there was a B heat before that one.
Stop that one. But
Boom
yeah,
roasted.
Thank you for joining us. It looks like you're in the office at Janji right now. Where I want to start is first with your passion for running and where you got started with running, and then we'll kind of loop into Janji to start. But can you give us kind of your background as, who you were in high school and why you decided to run in college?
Yeah. So I didn't start out as a runner. I was a very passionate basketball player whose growth topped out at like 5'7", which kind of capped my potential there, unfortunately. Still a pretty decent shooter, but didn't really have too much of a career. And so I really wanted to make the freshman basketball team in high school. And, my mom wanted to kind of keep me busy and keep me out of trouble. And so she convinced me that I should do cross country to kind of get in shape ahead of basketball tryout. So I did that, and it was a great stroke of luck because I just, slowly kind of fell in love with it. I had a talent for it, and we had a really special team that I was able to join into. Grew up in Brookline, Massachusetts, and ran for Brookline High. Had a great coach, Coach Glennon, who's still there and still plays a role in my life. Great guy, and he just he built a really special team. Like I had a couple teammates that went D1, Rob Gibson, Elliot Lehane, David Wilson, who were all great collegiate runners. But when we were all together, we had a great, really special run where we junior year we were kind of favored to win states, and then we kind of fell apart at the state meet and ended up getting like third. And then we came back and just went on a tear. Senior year, we won the state championship. I think it's still like the record time for least points scored in the Mass state meet. And then went on to qualify for like Nike team nationals and got seventh. We won like our region and then got seventh at nationals, which was pretty sweet. So from there, just ended up thinking it was going to be a one season thing, ended up being an all season athlete. Ran the 2 mile on the track, but definitely always like preferred the camaraderie of cross country, the team element.
So I too was an aspirational basketball player. It sounds like you were probably better than me, but I was slightly taller. But it also didn't go anywhere. So you had that experience in high school of being on a high performing team, a really close team, a team where other runners were going to collegiate programs. How did that start? Becoming on your radar, coming on your radar, and did when you looked at different divisions, you mentioned you had some D1 teammates. Was that a possibility for you at all, or were you just looking for the best kind of academic fit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I I ran like 9:25 and got second in the state in the 2 mile, and I was like good enough to get some D1 looks, but I never really took it that seriously. I really loved competing like in a smaller pond and like competing for championships, and I just never cared that much about times or necessarily feeling like I had to compete at like the highest division. And so the D3 thing really appealed to me because I wanted to leverage running to try to get into a better school because I was like an okay student, but not a great student. And I was from, a fortunate kind of family situation where I didn't need a scholarship. So that was like less of a factor. I think I probably could have squeezed like some money out of some programs, but I didn't have to. And so I looked a lot at like NESCAC type schools and was looking for a place where it would be a good fit running wise, but that was definitely secondary to like finding like the most appealing school.
Hmm.
Do you remember your conversation with Coach Styles at all of why WashU stood out to you?
Actually, I didn't go to WashU right out of high school. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, I
Our
looked.
research department is fired once again.
Yeah, fun wrinkle. I was deciding between Claremont McKenna and Trinity College in Connecticut, and I did a visit at Claremont. It's super cool, California, really like awesome. But I think in the end, I just kind of was like a little intimidated being so far from home, and it was just so different. And the coach, like, he like put a lot of pressure on me at one point, where he was like, "I have a spot for you. You need to decide right now," and it just kind of freaked me out. And so I ended up choosing Trinity. Um, so yeah, it felt like more comfortable. It had a good team, a good school in my mind, and I went there, but I didn't end up. It was an interesting experience. Trinity is like it's NESCAC, so it's a great kind of vibe for D3 running. You kind of going against Williams and Tufts and all these kind of classic programs, but Trinity is kind of like the black sheep of the NESCAC, where it's super broy. It's not in like a cool New England place, like you're not in the woods of Maine or um, you know, Western Mass. You're in like Hartford, Connecticut. It's kind of in a dicey neighborhood, and the school is really like broy. Really, a lot of kids go there from prep school. It's also just really small. It was like smaller than my high school. So I got there, and it was like I loved the team. It was really small team, but we were really good. Like we sometimes couldn't even field like the full 7 athletes, but
oh wow.
we we did really well. We had awesome captains. This guy Hunter Norte and Sam Moorhead were like badass runners, but also just loved to party. And so we just had this culture of like burning the candle at both ends and having a good time. But yeah, it was at the same time like I didn't feel like I fully fit in. I didn't know like any other Jewish kids there. I loved the team, but like the culture from the rest of the school just wasn't really for me. And the team was small, so it wasn't like you could lean on that for your whole like school experience. And so I came home from Thanksgiving break and was like kind of thinking about other options, like hearing from my friends how much they loved school. And it kind of led to me looking around. But the running experience there was awesome. My first college race was like this home meet, the Trinity Invite, and I like just won it as like a freshman. And I was like, oh my God, like college running is amazing. I love it. The team is awesome. But then as I started to look ahead, it's like a lot of those like cool seniors I really liked were graduating. I didn't love the rest of the school, and I could kind of just see the writing on the wall where I was like, I think I might want to change things up.
So how did that, kind of false start there influence when you restarted your college search? Did you have a clear idea of what you were looking for after that?
Yeah, I applied to a handful of schools, and I didn't take WashU that seriously because I'd like never been to St. Louis, didn't know that much about it. But I had a couple high school buddies that went there who weren't runners and loved it, and I applied, and Styles put me in touch with Dave Spandorfer, um, who fast forward, he's my co-founder here. And it's funny looking back because Dave's like kind of the sales guy for Janji. Like he's, selling us into like all these running stores and accounts and plays that role for the brand. And he kind of did like the exact same thing at WashU where he recognized like the team wasn't that good. He was like the best runner on the team at that point, but like it wasn't going to really go anywhere. And so he's like, the way to move this program forward is to get better athletes in here. And Coach Styles is so busy coaching men's and women's and track and cross country. It's just not going to happen unless I do it myself. And so he started taking on the recruiting responsibilities from Styles. So Styles put me in touch with him and he like sold me on it. We joked today that he like told me a bunch of lies. Like he told me that they run a different running route every day and like it's amazing. And
365 running routes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In reality, it's like WashU's next to Forest Park, and we ran the loop of Forest Park every single day. But I'm
Just
really
like the nature
glad.
park at DePaul.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and Dave have the same dynamic that Stu and I had. I recruited Stu and just like promised him a 30 rack, and he just committed like on the spot.
That's valuable to a high school kid.
Oh,
I thought
it was amazing.
So.
I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Once you got to WashU, looking back at the results, you had pretty much instant success there for a team that's going to nationals. Did that validate your choice of going to WashU, seeing the team success along with individual success?
Yeah. I had always been fortunate to have team success in my career. And so it was funny going from like Brookline to Trinity where we were pretty good to and we like made nationals to WashU, and it kind of just seemed like a foregone conclusion that we would go to nationals and be good. It's like the Trinity team had like 4 or 5 people that cared, and we made nationals. And then I get to WashU, and there's like 50 people on the team that were training way harder than the Trinity team, and they were like really. There's a lot of doubts about the ability to get to nationals. It's like if you haven't gotten over that hump, it seems impossible, or I don't know, you just haven't done it yet. And so I kind of had this attitude that was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it's not that hard. But I was lucky to be kind of part of this like upswing where like I joined, Dave was getting better. There's like a huge group of guys that were all working hard, that were all solid runners. And so I happened to be there for like the breakthrough season when we, I think won the conference for the first time in a long time. I think we did anyway. And then ended up like getting 7th at nationals.
Were you discovering anything about yourself, personally as a runner, as you were kind of developing now? You went through your freshman year, sophomore year here. What were you learning about yourself as an athlete that maybe hadn't been apparent to you in high school?
I had always had people to just follow on teams. Like I had this great athlete in high school, Rob Gibson, that ran for like Texas and BU. And so I never viewed myself as someone that needed to like kind of like set the pace for a team and lead. And then at WashU, I was like kind of the fastest kid up there with Dave, and had to adjust to like, I just was very comfortable like sitting in the pack of a workout, just doing what everybody did, and then had to like start to push the boundaries a little bit more there. And that was a cool learning experience. And I think Styles does a great job of like setting a culture where the leadership very much comes from like the team itself.
Jumping ahead a little bit here since I was pulling up some of the results. 2011 cross country national meet. You're a senior. I believe it's at Oshkosh. You finished 10th. Do you know who finished 9th?
Noah?
Noah finished 9th.
Yeah, I think I looked that up.
Actually, I think I probably have a pretty good picture of us. I'd have to go back and try to log
Oh,
into
please
my
do.
Facebook. But yeah, I remember seeing you back in that photo. Now I was so far ahead that I didn't know you were actually there. But
So I'm just trying to pit you guys together. You know, it's 1-1 now. I got to find the rubber match to see who takes the crown.
This is gonna get like very adversarial. We're gonna be like screaming at each other by the end of it.
Yeah, I remember that race. I always did better in races where like, you know, you didn't have the highest expectations and then you could compete your way like ahead of your plan and kind of, you know, use that momentum to like finish really strong. And then I put a lot of pressure on myself that race. Like I wanted to like contend and try to win. Um, and I ended up like going out in like 4:30 with like, I don't know, was it like Lee Berube and the other like top guy, and just like couldn't hang. And then I was falling backwards, which was like not the usual way that I raced. So that was like I'm happy with like where I finished, even though I lost to Noah. But that is one of those races I kind of still think about.
So, I mean, obviously we know where your career path has gone, and we're going to get into that. But I am curious, like in your early stages of college, what you went there intending to study, and also if you kind of started noticing any like entrepreneurial bug that you were starting to get, kind of before Janji was even a discussion.
Yeah, it was interesting going to WashU and like being around all these people that were so career oriented and motivated and like knew they were going to be doctors or knew they were going to be lawyers. And I just wasn't that way. I was like more of like a generalist with what I was interested in. And the academics at WashU were pretty intimidating in terms of the kids I was surrounded with and the level of the classes. And so I was just trying to hang on for dear life. Um, I I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My brother and my dad were both lawyers, and so I kind of like I thought maybe I would just inevitably like go that route, but wasn't particularly excited about it. And yeah, at some point I took an entrepreneurship class that was like a game changer for me. It was this awesome professor who became like a great mentor, and it was just like you kind of started a business like with a group of people, and it like opened up, it sparked something in me where I was like, oh, I don't have to be great at any one thing. I can be a generalist and I can just try to, you know, move a business forward and start something. And that became like a really appealing destination for me. So I wasn't sure what that would be yet, but I kind of knew that's the direction I wanted to take, which was the first time I had felt that way about anything career wise.
When did you talk to David, or like how did David get into like the mix of it all?
Yeah. Dave was like super motivated student, like 4.0. He studied history. It's funny, there was a year they had like this award where if you were like an all-American caliber athlete, and then out of that pool, the best GPA won this, I think it was called like the Elite 88 award or something. Um, and Dave like should have won it, but like our athletic director forgot to submit him, and so someone won with like a
Oh,
3.9, and he was in the audience. He was like, "What the heck? I have a 4.0." But he was a beast
was
student
that
and was
person
like,
fired? I mean, that's so horrible.
"Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk to Coach Styles about that." You know,
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure if it was him or I think it might have been our athletic director, but I don't know. But yeah, so Dave is pretty different from me in that regard. But you know, we were like training partners and we were buddies, and I had like kind of gotten that bug from the startup class. And Dave, I think he was just on this course where like he was gonna get his PhD. I think his mom's a PhD and like a college professor, so it seemed like he was on that path. And then I don't know, I think he started maybe to become a little disillusioned with that world, and he separately, I think, like took a class in the business realm and ended up doing a project on like running apparel. Like I think it was a totally different concept, but something around like a competing with Nike with like a basics line of running apparel and whether that would work financially. Um, so we had both kind of separately had this influence in the realm, and then we were on the bus together to the D3 outdoor championships. We were both racing the 10K my sophomore year, his junior year, and we got to kind of talking. Like, you know how it goes being in the Midwest in D3. Like, you just have these like 14-hour bus rides to these meets, so plenty of time. And um, yeah, I think we were like thinking about the future, kind of feeling, even though I was still in the middle of college, like feeling kind of nostalgic, loving the team and the running vibes. And um, we started to chat about an idea for a brand, just feeling like there wasn't anything out there in the market that we were excited by. We loved like the community element of running. We thought it was really cool that runners are like inspired to be philanthropic for through their sport. It's like you might run the Boston Marathon, but a lot of people raise money to do it, and it kind of makes them feel like even though it's an individual sport, you're a part of something bigger and something meaningful. And we loved that, and we wanted to do something kind of more unique on the design side that was like a little bit bolder, especially during that time. If you think back to like the 2000s, it was just like brands like Mizuno and Asics, and that were just like these shoe companies that just put out very uninspired, like boring clothing, black tights and track pants and things like that. Um, and so, yeah, we just got to talking and kind of put that idea together of making a brand that stood for the things that we loved about running, like the community, giving back, and then like more about the places that running could take you and the adventures it could lead to, and less about like just the times and the Olympics and things like that.
I think origin stories are always really interesting because I think like 99% of ideas just die there. Like, two people have a conversation like, yeah, that'd be sick, right? And then it kind of goes nowhere. When did you guys kind of decide like, oh yeah, this thing actually has legs, we have a lot to learn? And like, because I mean, did either of you have like a design background or know much about materials or fabrics? Like, I guess what was the first like concrete realistic step that you guys took on this path after that conversation?
I think if we run like 1,000 simulations and I'm having that conversation with 1,000 other people, like it just never happens. I give a lot of credit to Dave. He's just kind of like a driver of just moving stuff forward um, in a way that's really useful as a business partner, sometimes annoying, but often useful and a great counterbalance to myself, who's a little more laid back. So once you get like Dave's claws into something, like he's going to make something of it. And so, yeah, we just started kind of thinking on it. We started putting ideas together. We signed up for a different class where we could like build a full business plan around this business. And yeah, we didn't have any like experience or background. We were both just kind of generalists who had maybe taken a couple business classes, but neither of us was even full on business majors. I was a urban studies major and Dave was a history major. But we recruited a couple of our other teammates. This guy David Ham, who's an architecture major, and just like a really smart, creative, who helped like build the early brand identity, the logo, the early apparel designs. And then another teammate, Kenny, who's like one of these guys who was like, 18 years old, going on like 45, and was like already like a business genius, like operations guy who was well beyond his years in terms of his like understanding of how to make stuff and how to make things happen. So he kind of got us set up through some networking with like some early factories. David Ham like did some early designs, the logo, and he was an architecture major. So early on, the only way we knew how to like get the stuff made with a factory was he like used architecture software to like CAD out the pattern pieces for the apparel and like rolled them up in a giant tube, and we like DHL'd it to China, which is probably not the way that happens 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But it made sense to him, and it worked for us. So yeah, we were kind of a scrappy crew. And then the thing that kind of made it real was we entered a couple of business competitions, and one at WashU and then one at the Olympic Commission in Colorado Springs. They had like a sports themed business competition. And so the week between like the conference meet and the regional meet, we flew to Colorado Springs, like presented in front of this panel, like wore a suit. And we ended up winning like both those business competitions and won like a 10K check from the WashU one and a 20K check from the Colorado one. Colorado one was hosted by this like famous Greco-Roman wrestler, Rulon Gardner, who was on like The Biggest Loser. I don't know if that rings a bell. He beat this like undefeated Russian
Let's check
wrestler
this
named
out, yeah.
Bear, who's like amazing. So he was this incredible story of like coming up in Iowa or Kansas and winning the Olympic gold and beating an undefeated Russian. And he was like kind of the like host. And so there's this photo of him like putting us in a like a, I don't know, chokehold, and he handed us a big giant check. And suddenly we had, it seemed like a ton of money, $30,000, that we were like, well, we promised that we were going to do the business, and now we have the money. So we kind
It's
of
like, maybe we just stop here. I mean, this seems like
so we kind of had to do it.
Yeah, you get that like $30,000 with the seed money, and you launch while you're still in college. Like May of your senior year, it looks the article I was reading beforehand. I mean, I couldn't fathom launching a business in college while still running. Like, how hectic was your life, trying to be nationally competitive in track while launching this business?
It was pretty nuts. Like looking back, we were putting the business together. It was cross country of senior year, so that's probably why I lost to Noah in the championship meet.
you had way more going on than I did.
Noah was barely even going to class.
Yeah,
so
I was honestly barely going to class. So you had something going on.
There's like, we had signed up for, Dave was working, he had graduated. He was working part-time at this running store, Big River Running, with Ben Rosario, who's a famous coach now, ran it. And we heard like all the running stores go to this conference in Austin, Texas called the Running Event, and you can sell your stuff there. So we were like, oh, we got to sign up for that. And we took, I don't know, like $5,000 from the money we had won, and we bought like a 10 by 10 booth. And we're like, oh, we'll figure things out ahead of that conference. And it was like after Thanksgiving. So we finished cross country season, and we were like, we got to get ready for this conference. So we needed like a booth and a catalog of the like apparel designs. We needed samples of the apparel designs, and we needed to like get to Austin. And Dave was like racing the Las Vegas half. So like I was tasked with like getting the stuff to Austin. And we recruited another teammate to like build this booth for us. And he like procrastinated on it and did it all really last minute. And so we like pulled an all-nighter, like painting all of these like wooden boards. And our buddy Nick was so focused on trying to like finish the booth for us that he just worked through one of his finals and just like failed that class. And they like,
oh my God,
they let him like retake the final the next semester. But for a while it was just like an incomplete. And so we like pulled an all-nighter. We painted these like boards that our architecture guy David had designed into like this elaborate booth. And because it was so last minute, we kind of just had to like load it right into my car. And then I had to drive like 12 hours to Austin.
Oh my God.
And the paint like wasn't fully dry. And so all of the boards just like adhered together and just stuck. And so when we got there, we had to like pry them apart and kind of messed up the paint. But we got the booth. The other thing was like the samples. And we were like struggling to get good samples from our factory in China. And so we like pivoted and we found a sample room in New York. and we got them to make samples, but they weren't going to be in the right colors. And so David Ham bought like dye, like fabric dye in like blue and red, and dyed the samples in his bathtub, and his like hands were just like blue for like 2 weeks after that. But we had the samples in the right colors. And then we like last minute printed this catalog of our designs that we had shipped like right to Austin. And so we like miraculously like finished the cross country season and went right in and like got all these things together to be able to exhibit at the trade show. And that was just super inspiring. Like we had this booth, even though now I go to that show and I'm like, it's kind of a small industry. At the time, I was like, this is huge. Like Nike's here and Brooks is here. And a lot of people were stopping by our booth. And, I think we sold Janji into like 20 running stores that, it seemed like we were on this awesome trajectory. And so, yeah, we got it all together, came back. I had to write a thesis. And so I like wrote my thesis like in the car ride back from Austin. So it was like an unbelievable time of a lot of things going on. But when you're like so passionate about it, you can kind of make it work. And we had a good squad working on it together.
Are there ever any moments like now at Janji where you're just like, I don't know, at like a investor meeting or you're dealing with interns or whatever, and you're just like, I wish you guys knew what it was like when we were dyeing the clothes in our bathtub or when we were painting boards all night long? I mean, I just imagine that it's gotten a little more corporate around there in the intervening years. Do you reflect on that much?
Yeah, it's definitely funny. Like our team works really hard now still, but the expectations are just so different. Like,
Yeah.
we're still friends with like one of our early interns, and his whole internship was just like he would take all of our product that arrived from the factory and go to a laundromat all day long and just wash them and then dry them because the dye was coming out and like coming on people's skin when they would sweat. And
Oh
so
no.
we had to like wash and dry them before selling them. And I was like, that was the internship, like great experience. Put it on the resume. And he's like one of
That's
my best
awesome.
friends today still. So it's funny. And like, yeah, that's not how things would fly at the office today for sure.
Yeah, how do you not let those like at the time probably major setbacks, ruin the vision, or like how did you figure out to overcome those types of problems early on?
So we kind of like came off of school. We won the business competition. We did the running event trade show. We launched right as we graduated at Big River Running and had like a launch party, and everything seemed like easy. And we had so much momentum. At like college graduation, the like headmaster of WashU like gave me a shout out like for starting this company, and it was like, boom, we're going to the moon. Everything's easy. We're winning. But then like the real stuff started, and we just had no idea what we were doing. We hadn't started a company, didn't have real experience. Um, in the beginning, it's like people will give you a shot. If you talk to like a running store owner that's meeting this passionate college runner that's starting a business, they're like, yeah, I'll buy like $400 worth of Janji stuff. But then after that, like they are expected to sell the stuff, and we're expected to deliver that product to them on time with quality. And there's like a legitimate 5, 6, 7 year period of like just struggles, like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, a lot of product quality issues. And, we had built this brand that was really based around like giving back. Our slogan was run for another. And that was the core of the brand ethos. And during that period, it was like we kept thinking we were making progress, and then there'd be just something else, like a production defect, a fit problem. Um, and ultimately, like we just weren't competitive with Lululemon and Nike. And, somebody might buy your brand once because it's a cute story, but in the end, it has to be like as good or a better product than the big players. And we just weren't there. And it was disheartening. I think we never would have stuck with it if we hadn't just been so young when we started, because we had like no responsibilities, like no bills, based the company in my mom's attic for 2 years. I lived at home for a couple years to save money. So we were able to just do it really cheap. Um, and that's the only reason we were able to kind of like keep tinkering and keep learning on the fly. I don't recommend for people to like start businesses out of school when they ask me, because I just think having work experience is so valuable to just like understanding that market and understanding how to like how to work, how to, be efficient, how to know what to do with your time, things like that. That was really hard, both personally, and the business just really struggled. And it wasn't until like 2018, 2019 that I think some of like the big pieces started to fall into place.
So you and Dave had a relationship, very much based in friendship, before you guys had a relationship, before the business was a thing. How did that relationship grow and evolve in the early stages of the business, especially when things weren't going well? I think it's hard to keep your friend friendly, when sometimes the business just isn't on the trajectory you thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely. Our relationship has evolved a lot. Like we went from kind of, friends, training partners, and then starting this business just during like a very exciting time. And then, but then, yeah, having so many years of setbacks and challenges. We've had like certainly like our fights, our lows. We both, have different styles. Like I say, Dave's like very type A, very driven. I'm a little bit more laid back. We also like we're both generalists coming in. It's not like we were like, I'm the creative guy and Dave's the finance guy. Like we kind of had to try all these different roles in the business to land on where we are today. Where like Dave's CEO, he oversees finance, wholesale. I'm the president, oversee marketing and products, and have a nice balance. Um, I'd say our relationship evolved from like friends, training partners to business partners, and now it's like there's still that element, and in some ways like it's closer to like family or like a brother than to the friends that we were at the very beginning. And it's cool. It's amazing that we've done it together for so long, and I think it's awesome that we're truly stronger than ever as far as partnership goes.
Janji was built on, like you mentioned earlier, Run for Another, and built on giving back. Can you kind of speak to having like a business as the vehicle of kind of supporting a larger initiative that you wanted that was like very important to you, like clean water? Can you just kind of speak to just how business is contributing to that?
Yeah. Um, so we kind of came up during the era of like Tom's shoes, where it was like
Oh
super
yeah.
novel to have a
Yeah.
brand that gives back. They had like the 1-for-1 model, and that was a game changer at the time. And then there's a lot of kind of like copycat brands, and then, um, you don't quite see that business model as much. In the beginning, we were pretty naive, and we wanted to have a for-profit business that also gave back, and I think we donated like in the first seasons like $4 per unit sold, and we were selling our shorts for like $38, which is like $19 wholesale, and then we would donate $4. And it's just not a sustainable practice, and like our um, the business has evolved, and we've just tried to balance keeping a social mission really tight to everything we're doing, and trying to have responsible manufacturing practices paired with some form of giving back. So it's been focused on clean water over the last decade. We've raised over $1 million towards clean water nonprofits around the world that we're really proud of to be able to support the work they're doing. But we've evolved it where it's been for the last 10 years, 2% of sales give back, which is a little bit more sustainable and something that we can kind of bake into the business model a little bit more, and leaving room for, marketing and operating expenses and everything else that a business needs. So yeah, trying to find that balance, but also keeping in mind like we're a business and a clothing brand first.
Do you think that 2% commitment has kind of paid for itself in a way by attracting more kind of environmentally conscious consumers to the brand?
Yeah, I think it's definitely like part of our marketing story. Knowing that we're kind of a mission oriented brand, making an impact. I think it's not like the primary reason that people are buying. I think it's like you buy because you think it's cool and you love the product, And then it's like the third or fourth or fifth thing that you find out about, and it maybe makes people feel a little bit more connected or appreciate the brand even more. But yeah, we've kind of evolved where it's no longer like the leading thing that we're talking about.
I'm very naive to the manufacturing industry, especially when it comes to garments. You mentioned you're looking for clean initiatives when it comes to that. From what I know, it seems very difficult to like find that, especially with like how much water is used in producing this materials. But how difficult was it to find the right manufacturers to help you in your mission?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. We've had really good mentorship in that space to kind of help us navigate such like a murky and um, just really like chaotic manufacturing industry. Um, and we've just really honed in on finding suppliers that have these like certifications that are proven out around their processes. So like being Blue Sign certified, Ocotec certified, those kind of have to do with the um, chemicals and processes and labor standards of people making the materials. And then with like the cut and sew factories that make the gear, making sure that they have the right certifications as well. And we have kind of a statement of requirements that we make sure to put in front of any manufacturer we work with. And we visit every manufacturer personally to make sure that everything's above board and meets our standards.
Being over $1 million in, you guys have supported a lot of different projects, I imagine. I'm wondering if there's any specific projects that kind of have stuck in your brain or your heart that you've been, more connected to than some of the others.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's really a wide range of special organizations.
Or just any that you want to share with us.
Yeah, we've supported a lot of international organizations, but we've continually supported one domestic organization called Dig Deep that works more within the U.S. They work with Navajo Nation to improve kind of water infrastructure and add more like home water attachments to people on the reservation who historically would have to drive a couple hours to bring water home. They also support water projects in like Appalachia and a couple other underserved communities. So yeah, the international stuff is most of what we do. And then it's also meaningful to work with this amazing organization operating here in the States too.
I'm curious. Can you give us a rundown of like start to finish on either a new product line or a specific new like a new pant or a new shirt, something like from start to finish and the design process all the way to it, going to a consumer?
You have 90 seconds.
Um, we just came out with our first backpack a couple months ago called the Revy. It's like a run commute pack / day pack. It kind of combines like elements of a commuter bag with a hydration vest. And
Cool.
so you can use it for a wide range of use cases, but the like core use case might be someone that wants to run to work with like their laptop. And we started, probably iterating and talking about that as an idea maybe like 2 to 3 years ago. Um, and then for that particular project, we didn't have that skill set in house. So we hired an external bag designer to help us execute it, found like the best factory in the world that's known for making the best bags, begin the kind of sampling process with them where we kind of give them our designs and specifications, work with them to find the right materials, receive samples, test them, give feedback. That goes back and forth 3 or 4 times, and then eventually like place a manufacturing order that finally hits the market. And so, yeah, sometimes it can be, as much as a 2 to 3 year process from start to finish, but that's more for like a fully new product versus like an update on a shorter.
Nailed that. I think that was probably less than 90 seconds. You kind of alluded to this earlier, but we all kind of came up and running when, the apparel was provided by major shoe brands, and the apparel was often kind of an afterthought to footwear. And it seems like nowadays we're kind of in the golden era of like boutique running apparel brands. People are going to think of brands like Tracksmith and Satisfy and Bandit and Janji. And Is it true that there's just like a lot more competition in the apparel space right now from kind of apparel specific brands, and what's that doing to the industry?
Yeah, it's definitely, there's so much more choice than there were when we started. It's a great time to be a running apparel consumer. Um, I think, yeah, the kind of age of e-commerce opened up a lot of opportunity for upstart brands. It's really hard to do both footwear and apparel really well. And so for a while, like the footwear players could afford to just be mediocre at apparel. And then now, these creative people are founding apparel brands, and it's much more appealing to a consumer than just like a basic tight from a legacy shoe player. On the one hand, it's like the best possible time and the easiest time to start a brand. But on the other hand, I think there's also a lot of challenges that make running a sustainable company challenging. It's like margins are squeezed by obviously things like tariffs and costs going up. You have to reach kind of a critical mass of scale to have like a team that you can support and that can run a company. And so I think it's, on the one hand, there's a lot of options right now, but on the other hand, it wouldn't surprise me if you start to see like some of the offering of brands like not necessarily stick around just because it's hard to um, run a company like this for a long period of time and make it work.
Cole Townsend, he has a great newsletter, Running Supply, kind of talks about all things apparel and fashion in the running industry. And there's one newsletter I read where he can like kind of snuff out like the fake brands who are just trying to capitalize with cheap materials and take advantage of this moment. Do you kind of roll your eyes at some of those brands that like are just trying to get in quick and don't have best material or don't source it properly? Like, how do you view the pop-up brands that, like you kind of mentioned, like kind of fade away?
And feel free to name names because this would be great for engagement.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Cole is great. We'll forgive him for being a Williams guy. Yeah, I kind of empathize with like the small brands that are trying to start because I know how hard it is. Um, the ones that are, real and have like a passionate founder behind them that have a unique point of view, I'm like, I hope they get to that next step, but I think it's hard. The ones that are not like real, that are just like um, part of a bigger conglomerate or, kind of a Shein kind of um, project without meaning behind it, then yeah, I don't think that can work. I think the consumer can kind of see past that and wants, they don't want to satisfy a ripoff. They'd rather either go with a satisfy or go with a brand that resonates with them. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see those brands, and I appreciate someone like Cole, kind of commentating on the industry and calling out what's real and meaningful and what's not.
Well, there goes our $1 million partnership with Shein. It's gone.
One day we'll get him back.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. We worked so hard for that one, Stu.
I know.
We had a future.
You kind of mentioned like taking that next step, and it sounds like from you all that first 5 to 7 years, 5 to 8 years was tough, and now things seem to be clicking. Can you quantify like what that next step is in terms of taking the business to sustainable, margin, sustainable business practices? Like what that next step looks like?
Yeah. I think for us, it's probably like 3 or 4 things. One was just like on the product quality side, like we just weren't with the right materials and the right manufacturers, and shifting to like some better caliber factories, in our case in Vietnam, and better caliber materials from some of the best mills in Taiwan was a game changer. Um, Also tied to product, we were working with external product team, kind of helping do our design as non like full-time employees, and that's fine. But we ended up bringing kind of the product team in-house and having that kind of that passion and foundation of the business right at home. I think goes a long way considering it's like the true engine of a brand. Um, and then on that brand side, like we went from focusing more on the cause to more on the kind of adventure and exploration of like having a running apparel brand that's more about the places it can take you and exploration. And I think that resonated a little bit more. And then finally, like honing in on the trail and ultra distance space. It's like a really exciting, growing niche. And we, we're personally like really passionate about that space, and that made work really fun too, to kind of hone in on that for Janji. And I think it's just resonated and it's growing. And so, I think it's simplified everything in the business to kind of know exactly who we're designing for, who we're marketing to. And it's all been for the last couple of years really focused on like that trail and ultra distance world.
Yeah, speaking of the ultra distance world, did you just finish 100K recently?
I did. Yeah. I've been a pretty recreational runner over the last 10 years. And I wanted to kind of get back into shape. And I kind of have done a handful of 50Ks, not in great shape, but just kind of getting through them. And then I was inspired to try to push up to a higher distance and run 100K. And so my plan was to do it last year, but I got my first stress fracture right ahead of that race in my
Your
foot.
first one ever?
Yeah. I was
Wow.
luckily
I
very
remember my
injury
first.
free in my college career, but I've definitely been more banged up post grad. But so I had to take like 7 months off and kind of start from scratch, but ended up completing my first 100K last week at the Kodiak 100K in California, which I did with my wife. It was awesome. Wasn't particularly fast, but got my way through it. And during it, I was like, never again. This is so hard, so miserable, questioning my whole life decision, my whole career, the whole brand. Like, why have I been promoting this torture? And then you finish and your brain kind of forgets those memories and you're like, I kind of want to do that again. I think I could do it better this time. So I'm planning on staying with it.
It just
I,
seems
s-
so far.
I saw you had the what did you write? The Everyday I'm Shuffling song stuck in your head. I mean, it strikes me as one of the worst possible songs you could have stuck in your head for that amount of
I
time, but
know.
maybe it worked.
I didn't even have a choice. It was just already stuck in my head. And so I figured I might as well turn it into my mantra and get the most out of it and just try
Sure.
to not walk but shuffle, which got me through.
Well, what were you wearing? Tell us what got you through the 100K.
So wearing the Janji half tights and the Janji Trekker snappy shirt and sun hoodie. It was not Janji, but we're all millennials, so we think ankle socks are cool, or at least we came up with them being cool. And for whatever reason, even though I did all my training in these socks, devastated the back of my heels with chafing, and I had like deep cuts on both heels, which made the race so much more miserable. So I wouldn't recommend that, but those were not Janji. Everything else was Janji and performed fantastically.
Stu and I have moved on to calf socks.
Yeah, I
We've
can't believe the
evolved.
amount of people who love ankle socks. Like, we put a poll up because we did a giveaway at Augustana, and 75% of our followers on Instagram prefer ankle socks to calf socks, and I find that mind-boggling. Because to your point, you need your ankles and heels covered because that could happen.
Yeah, I might have to switch teams.
Yeah,
Well,
come on over.
If you're interested in trying some new socks, feel free to check out D3 Glory Days partner Bombas. Also along along the lines of the 1-for-1 mission, and they're just a fantastic product.
Yeah.
See, Stu, that was seamless. That was a seamless sponsor drop.
You can't be doing that to him, to Mike.
Okay, wait.
No, Bombas is cool.
We're all friends here.
Yeah,
All right, back on track. One thing I was curious about is, when you start a business and it's so intertwined with your DNA, it must be really hard to flip the switch on and off, because you also would like to have a personal life. You're married, you're running for fun. So I guess, what strategies have you learned over the years to kind of, if you have, to kind of compartmentalize your life a little bit, and to the extent that you can, leave work at work?
Yeah. That's a good question. I like having the blended life. It makes work more fun. You go to events and like the running community is awesome. So it's a great place to meet friends and just I'd so much rather be at like a running convention than an oil and gas convention or anything else.
I hear those are great. Though
They probably are. But
Stu and I are going to Dubai later this year, so
I'm in.
yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, like I've learned I'm just like an in-office person. I like going to the office every day and having that be my primary place to work, and then can turn off more when I go home. And I don't mind being like lightly connected to work the rest of the time as long as things are going okay. So it's also all I've known. So I think it would be hard to transition to like a regular 9 to 5 at this point. But definitely having the like home work be different places. I don't think I would do well with full work from home culture.
How many employees are you guys up to right now?
I think our team is 15 or 16 people.
Wow.
Like, do you ever reflect on, especially right now, talking about this last hour, cramming into your car, all that, and now your team is up to 15, 16 people?
It's a really fun era right now, and we've kind of found ourselves. We have this awesome team. We have enough like resources to like do cool stuff. Like we're gonna sponsor Cocodona 250 next year. Like it's really exciting. But on the flip side, like we're still small. There's not really bureaucracy. You get to know everybody on the team. So it's a really nice balance, I think, of like having the most at our disposal that we've ever had, and like night and day from the very beginning when it was just me and Dave, but still not being too big.
As we kind of start to wind down our hour here, let's kind of go into ad mode for a second here, just mostly because I'm curious. But if somebody who has not tried Janji before and they're just like, I want to get into the brand, I want to try, maybe one of the staples. What products are you pointing them towards?
That's a good question. We're most known for our shorts. I'd say like for women, like the women's pace short, the men's trail half tight, or men's or women's multi shorts, depending if you like kind of a loose short or a spandex tight short, are all really, really great products. They look great. They have like the best pocketing solutions in the market. So if people that, want to carry more nutrition, bring things with them that allow them to kind of push their running farther, I think we make the best stuff in the game. So I think those are oftentimes the first purchase that people make, and definitely recommend them to a new customer.
And keeping on this trend, can you speak about the Janji Collective that you all offer
Yeah.
in the membership?
So yeah, we have a membership program, Janji Collective. It's $25 to join, and then you kind of become a part of Janji's community. We kind of treat that group the best. They get first access to all new product drops. They get 15% off Janji for life, so they always get like the best deal on Janji. And we sometimes make exclusive products that only Janji Collective gets access to. So definitely, if you're gonna shop the brand, I think it makes the most sense to sign up for the collective and get all those perks.
And not that you're keeping user data, but do you know if there's someone that's been a collective member like through its entirety of it?
I'm sure there has, yeah. It's funny, like meeting customers that found out about the brand like in 2013, 2014, who have stuck with it. At this point, like such the vast majority of our customer base kind of came into the brand from a more recent standpoint, but there's a few OGs in there, and I always love meeting them and connecting with them and hearing about how they heard about it. So it's a lot of fun.
Do you guys have any relationship with the WashU program now?
We're still tight with Coach Styles. Catch up with him maybe like once a year. It's amazing. He like looks the exact same. Somehow hasn't aged a day. So yeah, I like if I'm ever in St. Louis, which isn't that often, but I have like stopped by and chatted with the team and still like follow their results and catch up, but not a ton. I also am still really close friends with a lot of my teammates, some of which are in Boston or some of which are spread around.
Are there any conversations about maybe pausing clean water projects for a while and funneling that money into NIL deals for WashU athletes?
It's an interesting idea. We could definitely get some studs onto that program because we
People
got to
could
get
really
them
get
back into
behind this,
medal
I think.
contention. Got to compete with
Yeah.
North Central somehow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Mike, thanks so much for giving an hour of your time today. It was great to learn more about you and Janji as a whole. Best of luck, and we'll be following along.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you guys.